the difficult role of closing this event, and I'm going to try to summarize some of the key highlights of today and pick some of the key insights from our speakers in less than 10 minutes or so. So the title of today's event was The Future of Digital Platforms, and that reminded me of an article that was written a long time ago now, 70 years ago, in the early 50s. And the article is a short interview titled The Future of Telephone. And it's the interview of a telephone and telegraph executive. And this executive is being asked about what he thinks of this new invention, the telephone. And the answers are very interesting. The executive says, I think this is going to be big. I think one day everybody will have a telephone. We may even end up with telephones that we carry with us, like a watch. And clearly, you can see in the article that the journalist is getting a little bit confused and probably not confident that this is going to happen. And then the executive goes even further and says, I think one day the telephone network can be used so that people can see each other when they speak. Clearly, that was prescient. Now, only a few years ago, when we set up Launchworks Co, people would tell us that platforms were probably not going to be around for a long time, and that it could be a fad, and that they may not become something that will last, basically. Now, I think it's fair to say that no journalist is going to claim that platforms are not going to be important in the future. And we all expect digital platforms, be it marketplaces, payment platforms, app stores, to be important business models in the future. And this is happening fast. Now, we had lots of very rich discussions today, lots of different viewpoints, different lenses, talking about the same thing, but with a different perspective, which I think was very helpful, from the practitioners, the entrepreneurs who are building these platforms, to the academics who are trying to understand better these models and their impact on society, and of course the policymakers who have the difficult task of setting the rules of the game and the regulations for this emerging platform economy. So I have a soft spot for entrepreneurs. So it was very good to listen to Niklas Odsberg in conversation with Benoit Reillier at the beginning of the event, and the incredible journey to scale, start from scratch and scale a platform business. We work with lots of scaling businesses, and we know how hard and how difficult it is to go from zero to 100 transactions a second in the case of Delivery Hero. And platforms only work at scale, so you have to aspire for that journey, and you have to aspire for that growth, and you have to prove yourself at every financing round, is one thing that Niklas told us. He also talked about being tired and scared, and I think of sleepless nights. So this is a difficult journey. One thing that is very difficult is this balance that you need to strike in order to please all the stakeholders within your ecosystem. And it's incredibly difficult to balance these needs and wants of all the participants in a sustainable way. So that's really the core challenge for many established platform businesses. Now, platforms, of course, are very disruptive business models. They face lots of challenges, and many of the things that they struggle with have to do with the fact that a lot of the infrastructure, lots of the regulations currently in place have been designed for the Industrial Revolution and the traditional firm in the Industrial Revolution. So all the labor laws were designed for people that would work in a factory, probably full time, in many cases for the best part of their lives at a given physical location. And clearly the future of work is going to be different, and we'll need to find ways to adapt these legislations to a more flexible future. So that led us to our regulation panel. So Max Beverton Palmer was director at the Internet Policy Unit of the Tony Blair Institute, started by sharing some survey results that allowed us to compare and contrast what people expected from platform regulation and what their perceptions were of the existing regulations. And it was very interesting to compare and contrast different countries like the UK, the US. So Japan was an outlier in many of these results. But overall, there's an appetite, of course, for regulation, but for proportionate regulation. We need to find this sweet spot, as Max said. Now, Stéphanie Lyon-Courtin told us about the DMA and the DSA, so these two bits of regulations that have been proposed by the Commission and are being discussed at the moment. And I can't remember who said, laws are like sausages. You should never watch them being made. But Stéphanie managed to give us some clear insights into this sometimes messy legislative process. And I'm hopeful that we will be able to produce some appetizing regulations. Now, I'm not sure how far I can take the sausage analogy, but basically, these are complex pieces of legislation that touch upon lots of areas, from free speech, consumer protection, IP rights, intellectual property, and this will take quite a while in order to crystallize, really. I think the future-proof competition law framework that is being put in place will be fine-tuned for a while, and then we'll have more visibility, probably under the French presidency, I understand, in 2022, before these regulations can start to be enforced. Now, Professor Annabel Gower, who has been working on the topic of platform for many years, talked about her recent report, and she gave us a very good summary. This is a very interesting report because it addresses a far-reaching set of issues. Usually, reports focus on competition or labor laws, and this particular report is more holistic in its approach. I found some of the policy recommendations particularly interesting, especially those around principle-based regulation. At the moment, the DMA can be seen as quite a monolithic code of conduct, as Annabelle says, and you may find more flexible ways of distinguishing between the different contexts, the different platforms, gatekeepers, in order to have regulations that are based on code of conducts and that more fit for purpose. So that was an interesting suggestion, to have the right institutional framework as well to enforce these legislations. Now, Oliver Bethel from Google gave us an interesting perspective from a large established platform, and stressed the number of opportunities actually that platforms see in the coming regulations. So it's not as antagonistic as some people may think. I mean, by providing more transparency, interoperability, and choice, platforms can also maximize the trust in the ecosystem. And I think developing these trusted, safe online environments, and this is a global problem, would be an objective where actually regulators, citizens, and platforms should be all aligned. So there's lots of things that can be done in that area. So I think we all agree regulation is an increasingly important topic for the platform economy, and it will remain so for many years to come. So getting this right will be critical. Then we moved on to the talents for the platform economy. And of course, platforms themselves need talent. They need increasingly what we call ecosystem level management capabilities. And we see this appetite for acquiring these skills when we teach or when we run workshop with leadership teams around the world. And clearly our contribution is just a drop in the ocean compared to the demand. So I wholeheartedly agree with Peter Evans when he says that there's real demand, that it's growing, and we need to design the training capabilities to meet that demand for platform skills and platform training. Now, Vina is not only ex-eBay, but she is a search executive, and she's looking for these talents. And she shared some very interesting things about the nature of these talents. And it's our experience as well. You may have a narrower pool of talent in Europe, but often of very high quality. And you need lots of talents at the moment for digital transformation to execute these platform strategies. And while it's difficult to find or put in the box the perfect platform leader, some of the key characteristics are about empathy to manage ecosystems, to understand shareholders, the ability to manage trade-offs within these various, amongst these various stakeholders within the ecosystems, and of course the curiosity to experiment. So Olivier, with himself, I know he doesn't like the term veteran, but he's an experienced platform leader who has honed his craft in a number of platform businesses. He's talking about the digital plus mindset, and I think that's a very insightful way to characterize the type of platform leaders that we increasingly need. And we need matching capabilities. We need platform economics understanding. We need people who understand trust architectures. So these new skills and capabilities are increasingly in demand. Now, Annemie, I'd like to thank Annemie, who had global responsibility for recruiting, training, nurturing many of these talents at eBay, PayPal, Skype, and now for clients in Purple Beach and at Innogy. And she masterfully moderated this panel, and she reminded us that skills are absolutely critical, but the culture is also a very interesting dimension, and you recruit for both, of course. So you need to make sure that the matching is right. So to conclude, there is a growing need for talents, for education, for coaching at all levels of organizations, and this gap is growing fast. It's certainly our experience at Launchworks. Now, I'd like to thank all my colleagues at Launchworks, and that includes Petra, of course, our master of ceremony for the day, Laure, co-chaired the event, but of course, lots of other people behind the scene who helped, Justin, Robin, Mia, Stephanie, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a few people. And I'd like to thank the panelists and moderators for their contribution today as well. And we like to keep these events free. So I'd like to thank Google for sponsoring today's event as well. Finally, I'd like to thank you all the participants today. We had more than 500 people signed up. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking questions. I know it's difficult for our moderators to always, address all the questions, but they're very helpful to us. So we read them all. We even try to answer some of them in post or articles on the website, so do come back. And they also inform the selection of future topics for other events. So thank you for that. We're building a community, so if you've got questions, suggestions, you want to get involved, feel free to get in touch. Now, lastly, I'd like to thank Louise Plantin, who has illustrated live the event. You may have seen some drawings from time to time in between panels or discussions. And Louise will you'll see the full version of our drawings just after my closing remarks. So thank you, Louise, and thank you all, and see you soon.